We talk a lot about scheduling time and planning to declutter, but let's not undermine the power of decluttering when the urge takes you. In today's podcast, we're going to chat through 10 ways to introduce spontaneous decluttering in your life.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more, or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Well, Leslie, spontaneous decluttering. I mean, we're like the planning people. They get organized. You need to schedule time and energy and things to your diary when you want to declutter. But now we're going to talk about spontaneous decluttering. I actually quite like it.
I know, but you'd never do anything spontaneous. Let's face it. If there's anybody that's going to do spontaneous decluttering, it's not going to be you. It's absolutely going to be me, isn't it?
Well,
I'm quite a spontaneous person, actually.
Don't you think I'm a spontaneous person?
No. If there's no one less spontaneous than you in life. Why do you think you're spontaneous? Give me an example of you being spontaneous.
You put me on the spot there now. I do like to plan. Maybe you have got a point here. But we're going to talk about 10 ways. And I think when I saw the list, I was like, yeah, I do a couple of these things.
Yeah, planning to be spontaneous. Yeah. Some of these things are kind of planning to potentially be spontaneous, but most of them are spontaneous decluttering. And you'll be unsurprised that I do quite a lot of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. But still, I do think it's a very good idea to talk about this because some people find it really hard to plan time because their lives are busy, but they still struggle with the clutter in their homes. So I think it's really good that we talk about this.
I think it's important, first of all, to allow that into your world of possibility. I think that's the first step, is to think, you know what, if the urge suddenly takes me, even though everything that I'm reading and learning and we're teaching all the time is plan, put in your diary, schedule time, blah, 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 blah. Then if suddenly I get the urge to do some decluttering because I see something that's annoying me or I think there's an opportunity to do something, open your mind to the possibility of doing that. Don't just close it off and think that you can only declutter when you've planned it.
Yeah.
So, but it's finding that balance, because if you're too spontaneous, what you can do is think time can run away with you and you get stuck down a rabbit warren of flitting from one thing to another. So we want to avoid that. So we want a little bit of spontaneity, but not too much spontaneity. I think that's what we're talking about today.
Right. So let's then get started with number one of our 10 ways. And we're going to do a tally, right? As we always do with the 10 things. So I'm going to barely end up with 0, Leslie with 10, but we'll see. We never know. Number one, decluttering when guests are coming.
So you could argue that this is not really spontaneous because it's planned. But I think that a lot of the time when guests are coming, it would be more tidying and organizing that we would do in preparation for guests coming. So what we're saying is, as you're doing that process, which you are almost forced into because something's happening, and we all know what that feels like if somebody is coming over. We have a deadline in mind and we try and work towards that. But as you are going through a decluttering, tidying and organizing, ready for your guests coming, if the opportunity presents itself to do some minor decluttering, so if you find things that can be decluttered, go for it along the way. Don't just put it into a drawer and tidy it up. Actually, while I'm doing my tidying, I've just found something that I don't want. and I'm just going to pop it straight into my donation station. This is where a donation station really comes into its own right, Ingrid, because this
Yeah.
kind of spontaneous decluttering is not going to give you bags and bags and bags of stuff. This is going to give you a few items here and there. So that's the very kind of thing that we put into our donation station. Ingrid, do you want to explain what a donation station is to those who haven't come across that term yet?
Definitely. So a donation station is a place in your home. It doesn't really matter where it is, as long as it's kind of easily accessible. It can be in a cupboard under the stairs. It can be in your utility room. It can be in a bottom drawer in your kitchen somewhere. But it's a place where you can put a box, crate, bag. When you find something around the house and you think, oh, I don't need it any longer, I'm going to donate this one item to Goodwill, charity, give it away, that it has a place to go. So you don't leave it where it is and think, oh yeah, I'm going to remind myself next time when I'm going to do a drop off at the charity shop to walk around the whole house and gather up all these random loose items. No, you can then just put it in your box, your donation station, so you can just grab the box and go, here are all my items that I'm going to donate, which I think is really helpful when you see something that's out of place and you actually wonder, don't need it any longer. I'm going to donate it.
There you go. And so that's the perfect place. So our donation station will be coming into its own through our spontaneous decluttering bursts of energy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what, Leslie? When we were talking about the guests coming over, I actually had another thought because I was chatting to one of the members recently, and she said, I'm having people over. I'm going to make my room look nice and tidy. So she then put away stuff in other places because she wanted the room where the guests were sitting, or book club or something. I can't remember. And I said, well, she said, so tomorrow I'm going to have to put everything back. And I said, well, when you put stuff back, why don't you, instead of put everything back, why don't you also then do a bit of spontaneous decluttering and not just put it back because it's always been in that room? Go through a couple of these bits and filter some stuff out instead of going, it was in this room, it has to go back. And that really helped her as well.
So she was we're incorporating so many of our things that we talk about. So she kind of did a sweep, right? So she did
Yes.
sweep, take stuff out, put it into a different room, and then reset it later. And so we're saying, don't just, but at least she got to the stage where she's like, the stuff is going to have to go back. But yeah, take the opportunity to just fine tune. So spontaneous decluttering are very much about fine tuning things and finding odd things. But I think it is, as I mentioned before, about opening your mind to the possibility of doing that on an ad hoc basis and not scheduling huge rafts of time to do this, So, and this is very different to scheduling 10 minutes a day, very different because we are planning to do those 10 minutes a day. This is like, oh, why have I got that? I don't think I want that. And then it might lead to something else. So, okay. So that's the first one. Decluttering when guests are coming over. Take the opportunity to expand your decluttering and your tidying into decluttering as well.
Number 2, declutter spontaneously when you're inspired, when you're looking at social media. For example, when you look at a reel and you think, oh, actually, I've got that item too, or I want my thing to look like that as well. You can kind of get a little burst of energy.
Exactly. So, I mean, we'd like to think that there are things that we inspire you to do through all of the content that we put out, our weekly podcast, our 10 Things podcast, all of those types of things, the reels that we put on Instagram, we have on our Facebook group, we have challenge of the week, all those kind of things. So again, the waters are a little bit muddy about whether this is planned or whether it's spontaneous. But I would put it into the spontaneous kind of category because you may not have thought before that that's something that you wanted to do this weekend, today, later on today, whenever that is. And so it's spontaneous because it's not you had not thought about it before. So take the opportunity not just to doom scroll through social media, but to take some action on some of the things that you see, because that's what it's there for. So social media posts that we put together, that other decluttering communities put together, are not just there to kind of entertain you. They're there designed for you to take some action based on them, to inspire you to go, I've got that thing, or I want to declutter that area, and I'm going to spend 5 or 10 minutes doing that. So do take that scrolling on social media to the next level and be inspired by it and do some spontaneous stuff.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Let's go to number 3. spontaneous decluttering when you get dressed and you see that something can go. And you had a good example about that. This is how it all started, this podcast, right, Leslie, this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. So I like to think that I am a bit, sometimes you get stuck in a bit of a rut, don't you? And you just kind of, it's this 2080 rule thing. You start just wearing the same things over and over, blah, 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 blah. And this morning I was like, I'm bored, bored, bored. I kind of wear trousers all the time or jeans or whatever. And so I was like, I'm going to put a skirt on today. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not moving out, but I have got a skirt on, which Ingrid can't see because you can only see my top.
Yeah.
But I was like, I've not got loads that I do wear a lot of dresses, but I've not got loads of skirts, but I've probably got 7 or 8 skirts. And so I'm like, let me go through those skirts because I always have a favorite one that I choose all the time. And which incidentally is the one that I'm actually wearing. But I did try on 3 other skirts that I've not tried on for ages because they are a little bit on the tight side for me. I could have got away with them. But actually I put them on, and even though they're still a little bit tight, I was like, I don't really like them. Like they've gone past where I really like them. So even if, because I'm keeping those things because I'm losing weight at the moment. And so there is method behind my keeping things that are slightly too tight for me. I've got a plan in place, she says. It's going fairly well. But I just thought, even if I lose it, don't really love that. So 2 things went into the donation station just this morning, and it took me 60 to 90 seconds to come up with that spontaneous decluttering. So I think the way to do that is, again, it's about changing your mindset away from the 2080 rule and maybe trying to be spontaneous in the clothing that you choose. We do something in the membership on a sort of every year, every couple of years. It's called the Wear Your Wardrobe Challenge, where we encourage people to wear something that you've not worn for a while every day. And what that does is, it makes you wear things that you've not worn for a while, but it also allows you the opportunity to evaluate what you've got and whether or not it's still fit for purpose. Because, in the podcast a couple of weeks ago with Jennifer, which was a fantastic podcast, by the way, so do go back and listen to that if you've not listened to it already. She's a big advocate of trying everything on when you're decluttering. And we it's kind of quite difficult to do that sometimes because it would take days for a lot of our members. But definitely go and try it on. And sometimes you can force yourself to do that by doing a little wear your wardrobe challenge for a month or something. Obviously have to do it seasonally. So you might do it 2 or 3 times a year to try and force yourself out of your comfort zone, which will then allow you to spontaneously declutter something that you didn't think you were going to declutter.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a long-winded way of saying that, I think. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that, you had that this morning because I had the same thing with this top this morning. I thought, oh, I haven't worn this top like in ages, like because I've got like summery tops and more long sleeve tops and stuff, but I'm a lot more hot these days, so I wear short sleeves a lot longer. And I actually was kind of flicking through, like, oh, I've worn that one. Oh, I haven't worn this, and actually now I'm wearing it. I'm like, it's actually quite nice. I don't know why I don't wear it that often, but I like it. And it made me realize I actually like it. So hopefully that will also then make me wear it a little bit more often instead of being one of those 80% of the clothes that you never wear, because yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's definitely about, decluttering is so much to do with reconnection with stuff as much as it is about letting things go. So reconnection with things is a vital part of the decluttering process. And sometimes you need to force yourself into that reconnection by doing something different to the way that you've done it before. Number 4 leads on very carefully, really, from number 3, doesn't it, Ingrid?
Yes, it's declutter when you're doing laundry. So if laundry comes out and it's dry and you are either, folding it, ironing it, just putting it back on hangers, whatever you do before you do that next action, between an action and it's dry, see if you come across things that need to be decluttered. I do that a lot, actually. This is one of the things I do, Leslie. So that's good.
You did number 3 as well.
Yeah. But I didn't let anything go this morning, but I found something that I hadn't worn for a while. So I didn't really declutter, but I did introduce something back. But this one I do when I do laundry, and especially when I do my folding and my ironing, I see stuff. I'm like, oh, that t-shirt has a hole, or oh, that needs to have a repair because otherwise, we can't wear it, or oh, those boxer shorts, the elastic is gone, or what. And I immediately filter it out. I don't even think about it, because I don't just fold it and put it back in the cupboard. And then when you pull it out, go, oh yeah, that has a hole and I can't, or oh, that needs a button sewn on, or oh, that's really worn and the pattern is a bit, take it out when you do that step, because when you're looking at the clothes anyway, I mean, it's clothes related, this one as well, but I think you can do a lot of decluttering with your standard chores that you do every week.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I think again, it's about switching into that mindset of going, this is a possibility. I mean, socks is a big one, right? When you're doing laundry, things that have gone a little bit grey. I mean, I do it all the time, where a pair of white knickers ends up in a black wash inadvertently, and then they become grey. And then you just kind of deal with it and carry on washing and drying them and still wearing the grey stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, why am I doing that? I deserve more than grey knickers, right?
Yeah.
So, but you've got it. It's all about that mindset. Don't just keep on doing the same thing over and not evaluating as the opportunity presents itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, Ingrid, what you said. And I want to delve into that. You talked about, because I said, oh, you do number 3 because you looked at a top this morning. And you goes, oh, no, I didn't, because I didn't declutter something. But we are big advocates that decluttering is not just about getting rid of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Decluttering is about, reconnecting with stuff, finding stuff, keep it, deciding what to keep, things like that. And so I would, even though it's a competition and I'm absolutely going to win it, I will give you a point for number 3, because I still think, even though you didn't declutter, it was part of the decluttering process of evaluating what you have in your wardrobe.
Yeah.
So,
wahoo! Let's quickly move on to number 5 before she suddenly realizes that, oh, actually, no, I'm not going to give you the point. So number 5, this is what you do, I think, a lot. I don't think I really do this, but it's decluttering when you're getting ready for holidays.
Oh, all the time. But there is a big difference in volume of clothing between your household and mine. That's the truth. Like, our house is packed. Everybody in the house is like packed to the brim with clothes, to be fair. I'm the only one who kind of declutters. I have to force the kids into decluttering. And so I think it's kind of not so much now with the kids, but I do, every time we're packing for holidays, I will say to them, go through the store, because I'm still ironing things and preparing clothes for them, rightly or wrongly, that I'm still getting the clothes to the point that they're in their wardrobes ready for choosing, right? So I will say, when you're packing for your holidays, I want you to absolutely, because all of a sudden a lot of that stuff has come out of their wardrobe, right? So it's a little bit easier to see what's left. Why did you not choose that t-shirt that would have been perfectly good for a 2-week holiday? Why are you coming and saying, I need 2 new t-shirts, Mum, or I need a pair of shorts, I haven't got them, when you've got shorts hanging up in your wardrobe? So what's the problem with the shorts that you've got hanging up in your wardrobe? So it gives you the opportunity to look at something that is designed for a specific purpose, i.e. that climate that you're going on holiday to, and go, I actively made a choice not to put that into my case this time. What's the reason behind that? And is that something that I will indeed ever choose? So I think decluttering while you are packing for your holidays turns what's kind of a nice task, and it adds something into it, which is a bit of a chore, and you kind of put it all in together, and it's a great outcome.
Yeah.
I love doing that, and I do it every single time I pack for any trip.
Amazing. Fantastic. I mean,
I want you to do that. Why would you do that?
Well, I did when Max a couple of months ago moved to his student room. I did go through all of his clothes, and I went, because he wanted to take a lot of his clothes, because they go to uni like 42 weeks of the year. So he's like, I need to bring everything, and I'm in another country, so I can't just nip back home and get some stuff. So we actually went through his clothes and actually filtered out some stuff that he said, I'm not going to wear that anymore. So
same principle, right?
Yeah.
So I know it's not a trip, but it's kind of a big trip, kind of a house,
yeah.
whatever, changing a transition.
Yeah.
So same principle, and we do it quite often, but we would see it. I think the difference with that is we would see that as part of the transitional process. If you were moving house, if you were downsizing, if you were, but in packing, we kind of focus on the packing. But what I'm saying, just open up the opportunity in your mind to not just packing, and to do some decluttering along the way as well.
I love it. So before we go to a break then, Leslie, so how many have you got from the 5?
Well, number two, I don't necessarily get inspired from socials because we talk about it all the time ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
don't we? But I used to get inspired a lot when I would do it with a client. So if I would
Mm-hmm.
declutter like jewelry or something with a client, I would get inspired and do my own when I came home quite often. So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of similar. So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
go, I've got number two, when you're inspired from other people, when you get dressed, because I did that this morning. When I do laundry, definitely do, and decluttering when I do packing for holidays. I don't do decluttering when guests are coming because I don't really need
Yeah. Yeah.
to be
So
honest.
you
I
got
go
4 out of 5. So I got
forever.
2 out of 5 then. I got number 3 because you kindly gave me that point,
Oh yeah,
and the
very
laundry
kind.
one. So two. Okay. So that's the tally. 4 for you, 2 for me. Let's go for a break and we'll chat about 5 more ways to spontaneously declutter after the break. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your 10 ways to spontaneously declutter. We've done 5. We're going to do another 5. So let's talk about number 6. And I think I actually do this one. Um,
I
when
maybe
you're,
you're more spontaneous than I gave you credit for.
I
But
know. When you're cooking in your kitchen, you're making a meal and you can do a little bit of decluttering. For example, you open a cupboard to get some herbs out and you think, oh, there's another herb there that I haven't seen in ages from the back of the cupboard. Let me check the date. Wow, that's 2 years out of date. I need to declutter that. You can immediately do that there and then.
I think, herbs are kind of, I keep those for quite a while, and I'm happy to keep herbs beyond their sell by date as well if it's
Hmm.
something that I use infrequently, but sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, Do you know the big one that I declutter all the time, which I find a real pain? Is those kind of sauces that only last 6 weeks?
Yeah.
There's loads, isn't there? And it's like refrigerate after opening, last 6 weeks or whatever that they say on them. And because you do buy things for like one recipe, and
Hmm.
there's something about, I think I have a bit of a barrier once it's been opened. You kind of do put it back in the fridge,
Yeah.
often go back to it. Do you know what I mean? Do
Yeah.
you see what I mean? Have you got
Yes.
that?
Yes.
I'm trying to think of examples of it.
Yeah,
Like,
like pesto.
yeah,
Pesto is
pesto. Pesto's
it's
a good
like a
example.
perfect one.
Yeah,
Or
so you
like
get
when you're eating
pasta.
Doritos and dip, which is my guilty pleasure, and you've got some
Yeah,
salsa left in the pot,
yeah.
and you're like, oh, I don't want to throw that away because it's really nice, Doritos. Oh, I'm telling you all my secrets now. This is why. Oh my
It's
gosh, yeah.
okay. I have Doritos and salsa as well.
Doritos, I love Doritos. They're so good, but so bad.
M&S, M&S tortillas. They're nice, the lightly salted M&S tortillas. Tell us, anybody who lives in the UK, are you a Doritos or an M&S lightly salted? That's me.
I also do the lightly salted. That's from Doritos. Yeah, I think they're the best. But anyway, so yeah, so things like that, you don't want to throw it away, but then it kind of ends up in the fridge. And then I mean, some people might go, well, what do you mean? Salsa in the fridge for 6 weeks? I have Doritos 4 times per week, but I try not to.
But even, the salsa, because I mean, salsa's definitely not 6 weeks. That's a few days. That's a
Yeah,
3-day one, isn't it? But
yeah.
even the second day, I'd be a bit
Mhm.
like, don't know. It's just there's something about it not being fresh and having
Yeah.
heard that lid pop open that somehow tarnishes it a little bit in your
Hmm.
mind.
Yeah.
And you think it's not going to be as nice.
How did we end up talking about food? I thought
Yeah, because we're talking about cooking.
Yeah, that's true. But I was also, you know what I was also thinking? If you've got like loads of wooden spoons and you suddenly realize when you're cooking, and you're like, that one is like completely like disintegrated black. I accidentally, you know what I mean? Or you can declutter it. If you've got 12 wooden spoons, you don't need 12 wooden spoons. A couple is plenty.
I have a lot of
S-
wooden spoons. I have a lot
I,
of wooden
I
spoons.
have about 4, I think.
Yeah, six. I'd say six.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I know, and you'll be very disappointed with me with this, but I do put them in the dishwasher.
Oh, me too.
Oh, do you?
Definitely.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
just not just me then. Yeah, I know you shouldn't. And you've probably got like splinters of wood like in your cooking or whatever. But like I just feel like it kind of sterilizes them, doesn't
Mm,
it? Just
yeah.
me. But I do have a lot of wooden spoons because I use them a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I use two together if it's like a wok or do you know what I mean? Like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Anyway,
when you're cooking, when you see things in your fridge, don't just leave them there until they go out of date. If you know that
yeah.
you're never going to use them, if
Yeah.
you are that kind of person who's like not really a salsa person after 3 days, let it go,
Yeah.
and do regularly as you're getting something out. You might see like chili sauces. It's those kind of those, like they're not table sauces because like tomato ketchup and mayonnaise and stuff last much longer. It's kind of those 6-week sauces that sit
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
shelf in your fridge that
Yeah.
if I do a fridge declutter, there's probably 6 or 7 go at
Yeah.
a time, which is a
Well,
shame. It's a waste,
that
right?
goes nicely then into number 7. Do a bit of decluttering of your fridge before you do like a bigger shop. Because what I see a lot is that, people have, some leftover tomatoes and some salad and some things they have half eaten and a little bit of little bits left over and stuff. And not necessarily talking about jars, but just food. And then the new food gets put in front of the old food, and then it completely is like gone. So do tidy up your fridge when oh, for example, on a Saturday or once or twice a week, I do a bigger shop. Before you go, just look in your fridge for 5 minutes and go, okay, what's here that actually needs to go? Because you make your future self much happier, because when you then come back with that bigger shop, you can actually put the stuff away instead of having to rummage around and go, oh, and then it doesn't fit. And then, like I said, the old stuff gets put to the back. And that's when it all gets a little bit, ugh, because you just haven't done that. So this is a great way as well to spontaneously declutter a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's kind of all about creating that rotation really in your fridges. I mean, I do it every single week. So
Yeah.
Steve thankfully does the shopping every week. And I know Yon does your shopping. So I hate shopping so much, food shopping. I think it's because I used to work in a supermarket right in my 20s. I think that's what it is. I think it finished me off for life. I hate food shopping, hate it with a passion. So Steve does it every week. And so while he's there, then I sort of prepare the fridge, wipe it out, get everything ready. Because otherwise, if he put it away, he just put it on top of everything else.
Yeah.
And then the herbs that I bought last week that are still good enough, do you know what I mean? Will be at the bottom, and then they'll definitely be gone by the end of next week, won't they? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a kind of, preparing for what's coming. So it's not necessarily about decluttering, but there will be some things that you would prefer. There are undoubtedly things that you don't finish off,
Yeah.
sadly, that he
Yeah.
needs to get thrown away every week. So,
Yeah.
yeah, spontaneously decluttering of your fridge with the weekly shop.
Yes. Now we're going to number 8. And Leslie was like, well, you could also set yourself a little challenge. I'm just going to walk around my house and find 5 things that I no longer want. Just go, actually, instead of, because sometimes if you say to yourself, I'm going to declutter and organize, it becomes a big deal that you can just kind of then start to procrastinate about, because you think, well, but I've got so much to do. I don't know which room to start. I don't know where in the corner of a room, and everything is messy, and then it becomes a big deal. But if you just go, actually, just going to go around and find 5 things that I can declutter today, that can work really, really well as well. And then it becomes a bit of a game, doesn't it?
Yeah, so if you're a gamification type person, this is going to work really well. I think you've got to be careful with this kind of stuff. So do I think it's a good add-on to a more targeted, structured decluttering journey? Yes, it can work for sure. It can work to keep things ticking over. If you've got a bit of, if you're on a mission to declutter your whole house and you know that you're going to have to devote sort of longer spells of time to get that done, and you're on a little bit of a fallow period for whatever reason, life's got in the way, we all know what that, and you just want to keep things ticking over because that's what keeps your motivation high. This can be something that works really well. I mean, we regularly do things like this in our membership and our member challenges. We've constantly got a 1 thing a day thread going, which some of our members get involved in, some don't, because some prefer the structure of doing it very systematically, and other people enjoy that process of 1 thing a day, but it's definitely on top of other things that you're doing. I think that's what so do we advocate 5 things a day as a decluttering methodology? No, I think we would wholeheartedly not sit behind that, because you need to go through things, ideally understanding the emotions related to that particular room, that particular area, and really delving deep, looking at things alongside each other, seeing what volumes you've got. And so there's more to it. But can it work as a little spontaneous thing to keep you ticking over? Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we put it in our list, haven't we, Leslie?
We have.
Number 9. People are going to sigh when they hear this one, Leslie. Have a spontaneous digital declutter.
Yeah, this is
Open your
something.
phone.
Ingrid's getting the 2 points that she got in the first half deducted because of how bad she is. So I'm taking the points away. Um, I'm not talking about things like, you can spontaneously declutter whatever you like. But things like, playlists on skyboxes, on what do you call it, on Netflix, you've got your playlist, are they still relevant? Are they things that you want to watch? All those things. It's all noise, digital noise around us. And you're already sitting on the sofa. It might be like, do you know what? I'm going to sort my playlist out today. So I've got exactly what I want to do. Or it might be a photo project is a brilliant one to do as a digital declutter. I use an app that I can't remember what it's called. What's that app called that I use? We'll put it in the show notes because I can't remember what it's called. But I use an app, and it's all designed for you to do 50 items a day. And so it's not spontaneous, but it is kind of, it breaks it right down. And so you could do a photo declutter and say, I'm going to delete a few photos when I'm on the bus, or when I'm on the train, or whether I'm a passenger in a long car journey, or whatever that might be, or whether when I'm in the bath, or when I'm in bed in the morning, or whatever that might be. Use your time productively to just do these small little bursts of digital decluttering, which take away that noise around us. Because even though it's not like items in a house, digital stuff is noisy and takes our attention, our time, and our energy away.
Yeah.
Ingrid,
I
what have
mean,
you got to say about that?
well, I am trying to be much better, Leslie, and I actually did recently go through all my playlist on on my Skybox, and of course, then you look at your saved wish list in Netflix, and you're like, oh, I actually don't want to see that anymore. So we did a bit of a tidy up around it. I a while back did I went through lots of my apps on my phone, and I uninstalled some stuff that I thought, you know what, never going to use that. Same with, we both love listening to different podcasts, but sometimes shows, if you've watched listened to all the episodes and then they stop, delete it. So it doesn't become, I did a massive group, Facebook group. I was part of lots of different groups, and I thought, I just like our own group. I just want to watch our own group, our own Facebook group. I don't want to be in all these other groups. So I did some digital decluttering in my Facebook groups. But it's indeed, it's here, there, and everywhere. It's suddenly when I think, oh, why am I in this group? And then I go spontaneously, I go, what other groups I'm in? And then you kind of can just clear it out a little bit.
Yeah, and and then you get, but this is where you've got to be quite, and digital decluttering is not really a problem, but we said right at the beginning, it's really important for you to keep a handle on it. So you can't let this spontaneous decluttering, which was going to take you 5 minutes, all of a sudden become a mammoth 8-hour session that's going to let you burn out. So you need to know when to stop as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, digital decluttering, it's typically when we're doing something else, and it's kind of multitasking. So definitely do some digital decluttering. I think that's a great example of spontaneous decluttering.
Well,
Oh,
let's go
Ingrid,
to,
you got another point. Ooh,
yes,
you
I
did all
know. I
right.
got another
It's
point.
definitely more spontaneous. I'll leave you. I'll let you have the two in the first half.
Last one then. One in, one out. And yeah, of course, you might go, well, yeah, but you have to do it, you know. Don't think I'll wait for the weekend and then do, well, I got 5 things and I'll take 5 things. No, something comes in, something needs to go. If you've got a lot of stuff, that can help you as well. This one in, one out rule with your spontaneous decluttering.
Yeah. And so is it spontaneous though?
Well, I think for people who are not used to decluttering and organizing, the thought that the option is there, that you actually think to yourself, actually, I'm going to put something in my wardrobe. Now I need to actually find another thing to leave, or maybe even one in, two out if you've got like loads and loads of stuff. I think that can, and that doesn't take very long,
Yeah, I
right?
think it's spontaneous because it's like it fulfills the criteria spontaneous because it's one thing really, or two
Yeah,
things. And so it's a small amount of things that can go into the donation station. So it's prompted by something else, which is the purchase of something. You
yeah.
want to keep on the straight and narrow, so you don't want to start introducing additional things into your house. Or if you do buy new things, then something needs to go because you want to kind of keep the status quo almost. Yeah, I think that's a great example of spontaneous decluttering. And I think it just shows you that if your mind is open to having less and
Mhm.
your whole mindset is changing towards having a clutter-free home, opportunities will arise that didn't before. So
Yeah,
you will see the opportunity to declutter in places that you never ever saw it before. And that's what this podcast is all about.
I love it. So how many, Leslie? Come on. Let's do the tally after the break. Let me think. I definitely do declutter the fridge, digital
And the
declutter,
cooking. Yeah, and the
and the
cooking.
cooking. Yeah, so I got 3 out of 5.
And I do the cooking. I definitely do the fridge. I don't do a 5 items situation ever. But I do digital decluttering. I don't do one in, one out. So I'm
So
going to
you
go
got 3,
3. And how many did I have before the break?
4.
So I got 8. I
You
am
got you got
spontaneous.
7. You got
Oh,
7.
7. Oh,
7.
maths has never been my strong point, has it?
And I had 3 after the break, 2 before the break. So I've got 5.
Well
We're
done.
spontaneous here.
I know. I know. Do you want to introduce that into other areas of your life, Ingrid?
I like my plans. I like my plan because for me also, I think when I plan things, I can have the enjoyment before that it's going to happen as well. So I think that's why
She's getting better. She's getting better. But the bottom line is when you're working with me, you can't avoid spontaneity because literally what you thought you were doing at 9 o'clock might have changed by 9:07.
I
So
know this is so true. You don't even know how true this is. But I will leave my woes for another time. I've enjoyed it, Leslie, this 10 ways to spontaneously declutter. So, listeners, have we inspired you? You know, if you're a bit stuck in a rut, you're like, but I'm looking at a Mount Everest of stuff I need to declutter. I've been inspired just to kind of be spontaneous and just do, yes, you need to have a plan for longer term decluttering and organizing. Yes, you need to schedule time in your diary, but again, start small and maybe to get you re-energized, you can use some of our 10 ways to help you kind of get back on the decluttering train, which we love. So let us know, send us a message and tell us.
yes, I've enjoyed it too.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for being here and we'll see you next week. See you soon. Bye everyone.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.